Right. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to be doing something a little bit different, and I actually wanted to try and find a what have we got here? I wanted to try and find some notes. Um, so you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. I do think there is a there is a Vice article that that'll probably do the trick here. But what I wanted to do, I actually wanted to start off by showing off this game. And you'll notice that I'm tagged with a somewhat unusual game. I am, in fact, going to start with Roblox, which I only just installed and started playing around with yesterday. And it was actually for a different, it was for a different purpose. But in any case, I actually don't know that much about I don't know that much about Roblox anyway, but there is a game designer who has done some stuff that I like. His name's Terry Kavanagh, and you may recognize that name from the game VVVVV. Sorry, VVVVVV, as well as Dicey Dungeons and Super Hexagon. There's a few others, but obviously these are games that are rather challenging, and they're fun. Like they're definitely a great example of the sort of thing that I suspect people really like about indie games. VVVVV is I don't dislike it, but it's like when I compare that to Dicey Dungeons and Super Hexagon, like I can kind of point to the features of those games where I'm like, only like this is the thing you gotta really do. Whereas that first one, I suppose I don't know. I've played a lot of sort of retro styled side scrolls, and I don't even necessarily dislike them. And I mean, there's something to be said for playing very challenging games like that. But the difficulty I have is that I can sort of say, okay, try Super Hexagon, if you like, I don't know, if you like rhythm games, this is kind of this is like a plus plus version of that almost. That's a terrible description of Super Hexagon, but you can kind of see why that might appeal to someone. And then Dicey Dungeons, it's like, hey, dice games are actually quite fun. I played one called Zombie Dice a few years ago. And frankly, I'm actually not that thrilled about zombie stuff. I haven't seen a lot of The Walking Dead, but I never really saw the appeal. And I definitely am somewhat confused by the zombie renaissance, let's say, which I guess kind of maybe is dying out. Like, the games were good enough, but um, yeah, I don't know. Like I don't it never quite landed for me, I guess. Like it's fine. I like the George Romero films and the 28 days, 28 weeks later movies I find enjoyable. I don't have like a major dislike of zombie, games or stories or anything like that, but I think maybe it's just a general tendency for my part to maybe dislike things that wind up being just like pure references, I guess. Like I like the George Romero ones because in the end they sort of had something to say, and like they're not exactly subtle about it, right? Like you watch Dawn of the Dead and you've got a bunch of zombies like scraping away at the windows, and one of the characters says this was an important place to them. I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. You can mute that line, and I can see the images that you have, and I get the point, right? But like whatever, it's not. I'm not gonna rip into the movie too much for that. I just try to say I'm not. It's not Ingmar Bergman's Dawn of the Dead is what I'm trying to say here. Um, but at least in those cases, like they kind of had something to say. even if they were maybe a little clumsy, maybe not, maybe, even if they were clumsy in terms of saying it sometimes. Whereas there's a lot of zombie stuff now that I sort of feel is just treading the same ground, or worse off, isn't even bothering to say anything at all and is just simply referencing other zombie stuff. And it's as I find that as unappealing as indie films that are still trying to capture the glory of the 2000s. And it's like it's a bunch of movies that are obviously made by people who've only ever watched like Quentin Tarantino films or something like that. It's nice if there's a little bit of substance there to to enjoy. Anyways, that's a long diatribe. That's not really it. So yeah. Anyways, the challenge here is that I don't think that's true for VVVVVV. But what I do tend to find is true. So yeah, anyway, sorry. I was talking about Dice Game. That was an example of one that I actually quite liked as a game. And then, the zombie framing, take it or leave it. I mean, here's the thing. There's a bunch of demand for it, right? So it's going to get made. If you have a good idea for a dice game, you're trying to break through. Obviously, being able to say that it's zombies rather than ninjas is that's going to help you sell. So I get why that sort of stuff happens. And I guess the challenge that I have here is that it's a little bit harder for me to say, you got to play V. I think I got to count the number. It's a good trivia question. People have to spell it exactly. And I can't use their phones. But the challenge that I have here is, say something. It's like, okay, you've got Celeste, or you've got Super Meat Boy, or whatever. You gotta play this one over the others. It's a wonderful game. I've definitely not beaten it. But it's a little bit hard because there are some other examples of games like that you struggle sometimes to be able to sort of break through. So like when I say Dicey Dungeons, I sort of say it's like what comparable game can I point someone to to sort of say, oh, you liked Dicey Dungeons, here's the one that you got to try. Do you like Super Hexagon? Here's the one you got to try. Those will be rhythm games, but they're not going to be rhythm games like the other ones. And even then, I don't really know if Super Hexagon's all that great in terms of like calling it a rhythm game. But I feel like I'm apologizing for disrespecting the earlier game when in fact I like it very much. So we should be moving on. In any case, Terry Kavanagh has been making some Roblox games under the name Terry_NoScope360. Let me just take a quick look here. So if I look under creations, he's got a shirt, and he has got 5 creations on Roblox. And so this has been sort of my gateway drug for Roblox, which I realize has a mixed reputation among people. But I would like to share something with you. So I'm going to need a minute to set it up. But this is called Climb the Giant Man Obby. Let's see here. Oh God, where is this thing? Hopefully this works. Yeah, there we go. I wonder if I shorten. Nope, no, that's just a square. All right, I don't think I have a way of going full screen on this. I didn't even think about how I would do that. But here we go. This is my avatar. Don't I look handsome? And we start off on a ship. I do not know about that little island over off to the side there. I've never been able to get to it. But again, so in terms of Roblox, you have kind of this continuous avatar. So my character is going to look like this until I decide to change them.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you for visiting the Giant Man Experience Center. We here at the Giant Man know you have a choice of giant men to visit, and we appreciate you choosing us. We hope you have a very nice climb today.
All right, so average house, 3 meters. Ireland's tallest tree, 56 meters. The Statue of Liberty, 93 meters. The Giant Man, a 175-meter climb for us today. But the Eiffel Tower still beats it at 318 meters. I actually don't know if there's a sort of reference here that I'm not getting that I can't see the Eiffel Tower, but how big is the Giant Man? The Giant Man is the biggest man in the whole world. Ancient mystery of the giant men. Where did they come from? Why are there so many? What does the future hold? One day the giant man will consume us all. And risks of climbing the giant man. The giant man is struck by lightning 600 times a year. So as far as I can tell, these are checkpoints. But we can get ourselves a coffee before we go to the giant man. Starbucks coffee. I quit. Go make your own coffee. I'm glad I didn't get smashed off the side of the building. I actually didn't realize you could make your own coffee until I saw that message. I love the fact that it actually makes you wait the 30 seconds. All right. Actually, this is a reasonable representation of me. All right, so that's the thing we're climbing, which, incidentally enough, is also Terry No Scope 360's Roblox avatar, so far as I can tell. So, again, I'm not that familiar with Roblox. I can't remember if I ever said what OBBY stands for. So it is, that is what the youth of today call an obstacle course.
Did you know? The Giant Man wears a size 879 shoe, or, in European measurements, a size 4,688.
So I do like this step. Stage skipping is free. Use it whenever you like. Oop. I'll let them. Maybe they won't pass. But yeah, I do like this idea of sort of if you run into a challenge, it's a little too much for you. It's free to run by. So if you feel like you don't want the challenge, you do have the option of doing a more straightforward route. Well, maybe not straightforward, but it obviously it's not as fast if you're not feeling all that dexterous. Oops. So much for my coffee. This is probably the better way anyway. The death sound is definitely a fun one. So there's a couple reasons why one, finding out that Terry Kavanagh had made some games in this, I thought was really interesting. He's, I can't remember if it was a Twitter thread or a blog that he wrote, where he said he's apparently wanted to try some multiplayer stuff before, and it like it was difficult to implement. So he dope. So this provided him an opportunity to make a kind of experience that he was interested in doing, but maybe didn't have the infrastructure for, which I thought was really neat. The other thing is, I have someone I've sort of been talking to online who has a kid who they would like to. Olaf, how you doing? Um, yeah, so they've got a kid who sort of came to them and said that they had an idea for a boss fight, and the mom was really encouraged by that, and I was actually quite encouraged to sort of hear, a parent find out about their kid's sort of creative interests, and just use that, like, encourage the kid about it. The reason why I like that, like, I sometimes feel that people may overstate these kinds of I don't know, threats or discouragements. Not to suggest that they don't happen, but sometimes in the name of kind of building a community or building a sense, you need some sort of sense of opposition. And so if you're able to sort of talk about all of these negative pressures, against expressing yourself, that can sometimes make for a bit of a story rather than, my parents paid for, my creative writing program, and, now I've joined this writers group. So the problem is that, like, I don't know if there's a way to sort of distinguish the truth of the matter, and I'm not entirely sure trying to come up with the labels on who's telling the truth and who isn't is really all that useful. So, but that said, it is fair to say that not every response, like, just think of it, right? If maybe now it would be a bit different, but if you imagine sort of a kid coming to a parent and saying, "I want to be a video game designer when I grow up," mom and dad are probably going to be a bit worried as to whether or not there is a future. It's kind of like, I want to become a documentary filmmaker when I grow up. Well, I suppose at least in that case, you can think of examples of, like, documentaries you see on like TV. I want to be an art film director. Well, maybe then you're hearing, what's your plan B, and so on and so forth. So all that I mean to say is, I'm actually really encouraged when parents demonstrate an interest in, the kids' creative interests, because that, again, it's not something that you can take for granted. And yet I sort of feel like when you're a kid, that's a really good time to sort of figure out what you're interested in. And, when you're confronted with the things that are not easy or not fun, do you still have enough of that passion to be able to, push you forward? Because, I mean, let's face it, I think lots of people have ideas for games, but there's a reason why we have not played all of those ideas. It's actually really hard to make them. So with that in mind, I'm not without resources to this, right? And it really depends on what the parent's trying to do. So I also don't know the age of the kid, so I needed to be a little more general in terms of the recommendations I made. So one of the ones, I haven't sent them off yet, so if anybody has recommendations they can make, I'd be happy to incorporate them. But I mentioned the Swift Playgrounds because I know they have an iPad. So Swift Playgrounds are sort of some gamified ways of introducing Swift programming, which, it's kind of a way that Apple will lower the barriers to app creation. Now, maybe just using the Apple tools is not the best way for someone to start creating games. So, but I do think, getting a foundation in terms of programming, even if you just know some basics, like in terms of things like control flow, that can be really helpful. Because remembering the parent was excited because the kid gave an example, I want to make a boss fight. Well, being able to put in, some conditionals, right? My health gets to this level, I want to start behaving this way. If the player gets too close, maybe start doing these sorts of things. Like being able to do that for yourself will give you a little bit more control in terms of bringing that idea you have in your head onto the screen. So, plus, I mean, my familiarity is with programming, right? So it's the sort of thing that I can potentially give some advice on in a more meaningful way. So, Swift Playgrounds is one of them because I actually quite like the way that they set that up. I also mentioned the Scratch programming language. For those of you not familiar with it, that's an MIT project, which is sort of designed to teach kids programming. I think it was like 8 to 13 or 16. But yeah, it's a visual programming language, so you kind of put these little building blocks together. It's actually not that different from the Unity Lego tutorial. So that's kind of encouraging. But again, that's a little bit more programming oriented. However, it did have some of its tutorials are games, and I figured, being able to choose something that has examples of games would be a good place to to consider. I'm trying to think, is there a better angle that I can get of the giant man? No. And then just on the odd chance that I'm talking about an even younger child, I did mention that there is a Swift Junior, which is it's designed for even younger. I think that may be an app only, but again, I sort of what I wanted to do for this recommendation was give some. I'm very interested to see how people are navigating the obstacle course below. This is actually a really good waiting area. So being able to, how do I put it, like being able to sort of say, here's why I'm recommending these things. Not all of them are going to hit, but some of them will. And I'm hoping the one, you have, like, clearly you have an investment in terms of what, what they're going to do and allowing them to find success if they decide to go forward with it. You're going to understand what their interests are and also be able to help them. So if if there's one that sort of speaks to you a little bit more than the others, obviously I'm sort of deferring to your expertise here. So those are all the programming ones. So then I was aware of Climb the Giant Man Obby for a while, but I'd never played it. I actually just saw one video of it being played. And I actually think this is quite charming. But yeah, I know that this is also a creator's this is a creative platform. There is Roblox Studio. Now, I also needed to mention, like, there are some worries that people kind of bring up about Roblox. So one, there's obviously the concerns in terms of content, whether or not it's appropriately moderated for kids. And like, I just had to say here, it's like, I don't know if it's like a moral panic and like the thing has just become very popular, or if there is like a real concern here. But like, you should probably just know this is what I've heard. I can't say one way or the other. I'm obviously an adult playing a children's game. So, I'm just not, I'm not in a position to really evaluate that. Right. The other one, though, is they sort of talk about it being sort of this like digital sweatshop that apparently people are not really paid all that well for their creations here, although Roblox is a very profitable company. And the, that I think they're sort of paid in like Robux or something like that. But there's like this worry that, it's sort of company script all over again and things like that. And I kind of had to say, like, it's not that I don't care or that I think this stuff is irrelevant, but like, if this is really just about letting someone express an idea that's in their head, maybe this isn't the concern. Like, if it's about making a living on it, if it's about whether or not you want to sort of marry yourself to this platform, I consider that sort of a secondary concern. But, just so you know, this is the thing that people are talking about. And if you want to know more, I can, find whatever the links of what I was talking about. What really impressed me though, when I took a look at the Roblox creator, like it's not all that different from Unity. Like you can sort of see this hierarchy of all of your parts, and it sort of lets you move things around. I couldn't really make a lot of sense of it at the start, and I think that's just because I'm sort of impatient and I'm trying to put together a list of resources. So I don't know what the targeted age for creation is. But I was maybe a bit surprised in terms of just how many options you had, and it has a lot of examples inside of it. So I was like, okay, this is actually one that's worth mentioning. And then I mentioned like Fortnite now has a creator mode, and there's some scripting abilities inside of that. And there's now also Unreal Engine for Fortnite, which is even more advanced. So it's more complicated. But the idea here, right, is to try and say like, depending on how far you want to go with this, and depending on how dedicated someone is, you can sort of think of these as maybe destinations in terms of where they may be going. But yeah, in any case, I did finally climb the giant man, and so I thought I would share with you something that's a little fun. Olaf, have you ever played Super Hexagon or Dicey Dungeons or VVVVVVV? 6Vs.
A common misconception is that the giant man is named for its incredible size. In fact, that's just a coincidence. It's named for its discoverer, a fisherman who found it by accident in 1836 while out at sea, Mr. Thomas Giantman.
Oops. Well, now we know what yellow does. You play a little bit. So this is the same designer. Oh no! Could you believe I actually got this the first time I did it? There's one other one I'll show you after we climb the giant man, but I went the wrong way. No! Maybe I'm losing so much because I like the shout sound. By the way, for those of you that do have Roblox accounts, you are welcome to join me, but I'm gonna guess that's not like a super popular platform. Okay, good. I think I might have caused problems for myself. But yeah, I'll confess, I actually really like the little facts about the giant man as we move up.
We're quite lucky to be able to climb the giant man. Thanks to the natural process of erosion, there are lots of platforms and footholds all the way to the very top.
This next part is evil. So I'm sure you've noticed you can't really see what's going on until it's like right in front of you. But again, if you're racing someone through this, it actually makes for a fun little challenge. Particularly because actually one feature I really like about this is that you can basically see someone like running ahead of you. um, so if you you know, if you see that you're behind and you're racing someone, you're more likely to sort of freak out and, or possibly you'll see someone coming up behind you, so you're more likely to freak out and sort of rush. All right.
The entire area around the Giant Man is a designated no-fly zone. This is because compasses and other flight navigation instruments stop working once you enter the Giant Man triangle. Because of this, no one is sure what direction the Giant Man is facing.
Nice halfway point. Maybe you guys are scared of heights, are you? But one example I kind of like to sort of compare this to in some ways is like Getting Over It. Because there's just so many. I think but Getting Over It was generated entirely from free or maybe just store assets. This is also a fun little reveal. But yeah, or you know, when we played the beginner's guide, sort of this idea of these, oops, you know, small little experimental games, where people would sort of have a little bit of fun or show off an idea, and I'll confess, like Terry Kavanaugh's the only developer I really know of. I think a developer had a kid who played Roblox, and I think had a few creations. But I am kind of curious, like, I don't know, I really don't know of that many examples of sort of professional developers doing kind of Roblox experiences in quite the same way that, you know, quite like these ones. And there's another one that, like, the other one I'll show you will be relatively short, but it is actually one that I am very amused by. All right, now this thing I have had a devil of a time trying to get over, so of course I get it the first try. So I'll confess, I'm a little lost as to why there's like multiple dingers or like stage markers or whatever here. Oh, actually, here's a question. Because there's a number that goes up, so 30, 33, 32, 31. I don't know if they serve any purpose other than just to, you know, make the number turn into a different number. But I do know there are some details. Well, let's see if we can get all the stage markers. So we've got 35, but I think probably 34 was back there. Would you like to learn some more facts about the giant man?
We don't know for sure who built the giant man. Scientists think this giant man has always been here, and probably always will be. So please come back and visit anytime you like. Tell your grandkids and descendants about it.
Yeah, sorry, what I meant to say about the sort of the found stuff, right? So like the fidget spinners, the ducks, like, you know, I would not have imagined, you know, an obstacle course where you climb a giant man and you know, drive a car on the, you know, on a street in the middle of the sky, and yet, you know, here we are. It's my store now. We already made a coffee. I wonder if there's anything I can pick up in here. I wonder if you can have a coffee and a duck. The other thing I do like about this is the idea there's little secrets, right? So if you want, you can actually get a much faster car. I am not going to take the much faster car for reasons that will be all too apparent. So the red car, I think, goes like twice as fast. I am no good at driving. Warning, wall ahead. There we go. We climbed the giant man.
Congratulations. You climbed the giant man. Please enjoy the facilities here on the Bald Spot. If you are here taking part in the Great Giant Men Heritage Tour, please ask in the gift shop on your way out about getting your tour card stamped for this location.
Right. So, yeah. Oh, fly for 50 seconds. So I guess that would give me the chance to visit that that strange little island. I think I'll settle for green. Or no, yellow. To match with my ducky friend. I think I will I'll skip the flight and instead I'll visit the gift shop. So plenty of fidget spinners. I seem to recall he actually stamped my tour card, but I suppose I already have the achievement, so... Down we go. There you have it. We climbed the giant man. Perhaps in the future...
Did you know? The giant man wears a size 879 shoe, or, in European measurements, a size 4,688.
But yeah, so, I don't know. Like, I think this is quite cute. It's not there are definitely a few things that I sort of pay attention to. So like the amount of time that you spend climbing the man, like where the break places are, what the break places let you see. What do you get for climbing the giant man? Like when you reach the bald spot, like it is actually kind of nice to have this little hangout, and there's the gift shop and all of that. I quite like this, and just even from the very beginning, right? We start at stage one, and from the very beginning, you have this remote location. Now, if it wasn't streaming, what I would be doing is I would actually go back. I would go back to the giant man, and I would get the 50 seconds of flight because I really want to see what's over there. But I also don't want to spend too much time. It's already been about half an hour in this already. So we're going to say goodbye to the giant man for now. And there's a couple things I'm going to do out of this. So number one, I will briefly show you the other game, and then we'll read that article before moving on to before we move on to onto Phantom Brigade for tonight. So this is another one. This is anyone could be struck by lightning at any time. Nice grassy atmosphere. Inexplicable spikes sticking out of the... Can I jump into the water? I can. We can swim to freedom. I didn't know you could go underwater, so let's see if there's any secrets. Now, I'm playing this through a client, but there is... I think this might be web-based. I think I'm going to decline the... Well, not decline, but I will ignore the friend request unless I know who that is. I'm actually quite fascinated that I can go this far. Normally something has happened at this point. Oops. This island seems pretty dangerous. How you doing, Starbright Knight? How are you doing? I'm glad World is Flat confirmed, yes. Alright, I was struck by lightning, which means that Pepe 19 CPAN tarp has gotten 1 point. Aha! I survived. So obviously the answer is you need to get on the highest place. All right. Well, I have not survived any strikes now. But yeah, I think you kind of get what this is. There's quite literally nothing you can do. I don't know if there's a specific interval for the lightning strikes or. But yeah, like, well, as it says, will you be lucky enough to be struck by lightning? Let's find out. Frequently asked questions. Is it possible to avoid the lightning? Answer: it is not possible to avoid the lightning. So yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm wondering if this is like a satire on battle royale. But but yeah, I thought it was a cute idea. Like obviously, I think well, maybe not obviously, but I think I probably spent a little more time on that than I had than I should have. But it is charming, and like I said, I'm actually kind of encouraged by the fact that a developer who's made games that I quite like has become so enthusiastic about um, I don't know, some of the opportunities that it provides to be able to give these sorts of experiences. This is the icon for the for Roblox Studio. So, like I said, I couldn't quite make. It's not that it's incomprehensible. It's just sort of like I looked at it. And I'm like, is this going to be intuitive enough for me to be able to make something right away? Um, and I think the answer for that is no. I'd probably ideally spend some time with the manual, although it does actually start you off in a session. So maybe I just want a manual. But yeah, mostly I just kind of wanted to share these. I thought the Giant Man was quite fun. So but I will share the article that I read about this. Well, actually, it wasn't specifically this article. It might have, like I said, it might have been a blog, but um, I thought it was worth sharing nonetheless. I'll just turn on display capture. Okay, how the designer of VVVVVV and Dicey Dungeons fell in love with Roblox. Throughout COVID-19, game designer Terry Kavanagh was. Sorry, I should mention this is Vice. Throughout COVID-19, game designer Terry Kavanagh was like most of us, home, bored, and lonely. Stuck inside, the designer of trippy platformers like VVV and recent roguelite delight, Dicey Dungeons, found socialization in spending time playing online multiplayer games with friends. Eventually, someone suggested they start poking at Roblox. I knew it was a multiplayer game platform mostly aimed at kids, said Kavanagh, and I'd heard that it was very heavily into microtransactions, and I think I had an overall negative perception about it because of that. But mostly, I just didn't really have an opinion at all. I had no idea how big it was. Fast forward a few months, and the result was Kavanagh making a game inside Roblox, an obby called Climb the Giant Man Obby. In Roblox, platformers are called an obby, a term that initially broke my brain before finding it endlessly endearing. Players are tasked with guiding their blocky avatar, one of the defining aspects of Roblox, as they navigate a goofy series of platform hijinks as part of an amusement park built on top of, well, a giant man. The journey to getting there, however, was journeying and understanding Roblox itself. Roblox isn't new. It's been around since 2006, but the social platform that's helped define video games for a generation of youngsters alongside things like Minecraft only recently went public earlier this year. Money talks. Crucially, despite its crude-looking aesthetic, it's continuing to get bigger and bigger, to the point that development studios can capably hire dozens of people and pay for their health insurance based on making games inside of Roblox. It's also, generally speaking, looked at with condescension by outsiders, especially those most familiar with traditional video games. Roblox might be host to games played by tens of millions of people, but hey, they're not real video games. The interface is janky, the physics are wonky, and you're constantly being asked to buy things called Robux. The last part is certainly true. Roblox is stuffed with aggressive microtransactions. But it's also the case that Roblox, I think it's supposed to say Roblox, has its own language of design and aesthetic. A lot of people love it. The first time you boot up Roblox is perplexing. There's not much guidance beyond being told what's popular with other people who are playing Roblox. You're kind of on your own. It was sort of overwhelming, said Kavanaugh. There's this huge community of creative people doing weird and inspiring and beautiful work, and I didn't even know it existed. When Kavanaugh's regular games night pivoted to Roblox, they tried to follow what was in front of them, going through lists of top games recommended by Roblox, games friends and colleagues had pointed out as interesting and worthwhile, and simply picking at random. In general, they'd spend 20 minutes inside of a game, pick it apart, and then move on to the next. Sometimes we'd find something really good and spend a few hours on it, says Kavanaugh. Something that happened a lot is that we'd randomly find a game that was really interesting, and that would lead to finding more games and more games that it turns out were part of a whole Roblox-specific genre. Kavanaugh pointed to Jailbreak, where players are either police officers patrolling the area or prisoners looking to escape. It's popular enough that you can buy action figures on Amazon. You explore a massive map, drive vehicles on the air and ground, pilot a drone, rob banks. To an outside observer, it's someone using Roblox to imitate Grand Theft Auto, but a closer look reveals that it's Roblox in conversation with games like GTA and Roblox culture itself. The popularity of the obby genre, for example, is woven directly into Jailbreak because if you've spent any meaningful time playing Roblox, you've spent time playing obby games. I'm really fascinated with the way that Roblox is its own totally isolated games culture, says Kavanaugh. Like it's some ancient deep lake that's been cut off from the rest of games for some reason. It's around this time Kavanaugh started digging into the reason Roblox is so robust and dynamic. The deeply accessible creation tools, engine technologies like Unity and Unreal Engine exist on their own, but Roblox is both the platform and the technology. You cannot publish a game made with Roblox somewhere else. It's closer to Sony's Dreams experiment. Kavanaugh's time figuring out the Roblox toolset reflects what I've seen from other designers coming from similar spaces. Initially, there's confusion over how things work in Roblox, especially its limitations, before being won over by how well it does so many other things. One of the big reasons Giant Man turned out to be such a big thing is that I was just really enjoying the process of working with these tools, said Kavanaugh. They're really easy and playful to use, and it's genuinely a lot of fun to mess about with them. I had no expectations about that going in at all, so it was a really nice surprise. The premise behind Climb the Giant Man obby was simple: climb the giant man. This prompt came from Kavanaugh's own experience in Roblox, discovering an obby trope of forcing players to climb a massive person for no discernible reason except that it's funny. In fact, while answering my questions, Kavanaugh came across one such example as this. The first time I saw a big Roblox avatar as an obstacle in a front page obby, said Kavanaugh, I remember thinking, this is amazing. This guy should be like 20 times bigger, and the whole game should be about climbing him. How long until Roblox has a massive lady, I don't actually know how to pronounce this, but maybe Dimitrescu? Anyways, Climb the Giant Man obby is, I know it's a Resident Evil reference, I've never actually heard her name being said. Climb the Giant Man obby is filled with references to other obby tropes too, like climbable stairs that disappear behind the player and jumping between spheres. Stuff that's WTF to anyone not well versed in Roblox culture, but fits right in with anyone who spent time there. It took me about an hour to reach the top of Old Obby. Is it VVVVVV? Nah, but it's very cute, frustrating to control in a way that's fitting for the rest of Roblox, and surprisingly funny. There's legitimate and amusing world building happening in the level, and it proved nearly as motivating as trying to solve the platforming gauntlet in front of me. It's not finished either. Roblox is kind of two very different things, said Kavanaugh, reflecting on the experience. It's a platform that hosts multiplayer games, many of which are cheap cash grabs or Skinner boxes, but it's also this really good accessible game-making tool that kids are using to express themselves and make weird joke games for each other. I come from a background of making dumb freeware games, and I'm really interested in what's going on in freeware. I'm really fascinated with the way that Roblox is its own totally that's just the quote again. Roblox doesn't require folks like Kavanaugh for that creative space to feel validated or real. It's been doing that all along, and the rest of us, yours truly included, are only catching up. But what happens when developers and other creatives from the traditional game world start hopping into Roblox, lured either by curiosity or genuine interest, is going to be interesting. One only needs look at what artist and designer Everest Pipkin has been up to in Roblox, which is basically the complete opposite of Kavanaugh. Whereas Kavanaugh got wrapped up in understanding the existing culture of Roblox, Pipkin pressed up the boundaries of what the technology is capable of, producing results that look nothing like what you'll find inside of Roblox. Even if Kavanaugh, Pipkin, and others get bored, Roblox will keep moving. I think it's important to keep up with the experimental side of what people are making, said Kavanaugh. So, anyways, that's the reason why I wanted to do this. I'd been meaning to give this a try for a while, and I will admit I'm actually rather I was rather charmed by Climb the Giant Man. So there you have it. So we are going to move on to Phantom Brigade now. It's been a while since I played this, and I actually kind of wanted to do Godless. But it's occurred to me it's been a very, very long time, and I know some of you really like Phantom Brigade. Actually, there's somebody streaming it right now, it turns out. But yeah, I figured it'd be good to jump back in, and then if we want to do something else next week, that's fine. I do want to go back to Godless, but there will probably be an update before too long, so. Now's maybe not a bad time to remind everyone that I was given a copy of this from Brace Yourself Games. This was back when they were in early access on Epic, and they did toss me an Epic key, or a Steam key as well. So I'm obviously very grateful for them letting me play and share this. But if you are making a buying decision off of all of this, it's worth remembering that there was a thing of value given to me in order to cover it. But of course, I'm also a very big fan of the developer and the team behind it. So, seizure warning. A very small percentage of people may experience a seizure when exposed to certain visual images, including flashing lights or visual patterns. These seizures may have a variety of symptoms, including lightheadedness, altered vision, eye or face twitching, jerking or shaking of arms or legs, disorientation. Oh, never mind. Now, Starbright Knight, have you seen Phantom Brigade before? I'm trying to remember if you ever got a chance to stop by while we were doing that. I'm sorry, I'm just catching up on a couple messages. Okay, so we last played this at the end of April, so yes, we are long overdue for some Phantom. Oh, and we left in the middle of a contested province. So I think the idea was going to be I was going to take the... Well, no, why would I take the two patrols? Probably I should take the base. Yeah, I should definitely go back to cruise because I need to... use a repair. Now this is a little weird for me, so they're going to dispatch a squad, but I don't actually see the detection region. So maybe I'll just start heading towards the battle site. Get a brief reprieve. Right, here we go. Take them out. You followed a distress signal put out by the Home Guard to squash some enemy forces at this battle site. One of your pilots is jumpy. They mean business, Commander. They really want to win this war. Another shrugs. I reckon we can take them. What do you think, boss? What's the game? Glum IV04. This is a game by Brace Yourself Games called Phantom Brigade. It's a turn-based. I'd say it's better thought of as a turn-based strategy game. I know some people talk about real-time. The way to think about it, though, is it's a simultaneous turn-based strategy game. So you're going to lock in your actions at the time that the enemy is. In fact, you technically put it in after the enemy because you are able to see their actions in advance, and you kind of see the results play out in a little cinematic at the end. You'll get a good idea for it in just a minute once we jump in. It's a game I've actually played quite a lot of, and it's one that I really enjoy covering. But there was the updates, so there was there's some Industries of Titan, there was some Godless. There's lots of stuff that Brace Yourself has put out fairly recently, so I needed to I basically just needed to kind of catch up with everything that's going on. So hope you're doing well, though. All right, suit up. Make preparations with your squad. Okay, I thought for a second those were enemy units. So there's a fair number of them. It's listed as a very hard battle for us. It has been a while since I've tried this configuration. So we've got a Manticore with the huge gun, machine gun with a shield, long range weapon, and then the Herald that sort of just runs around the battlefield and terrorizes everything. Generic branch of the military, so there's not too much to learn there. Foxtrot is still shaken up from being knocked down. Oh, raining. I really like it when it rains. God, doesn't even make sense to try. I'm gonna do a quick read of my mechs just to see if I can improve them at all. So the big thing on this one is speed. We're currently at 21. I might even be willing to fall down with the Tsubasa, but in this case we give up over 300 in terms of integrity to replace that with about 190 in terms of barrier, so I don't see... The heat capacity is notable, but yeah, I just don't see this doing anything useful for me here. The Nox legs, so 21's the highest that we can go. So in this case, we'd be giving up some heat dissipation and integrity. Okay. Let's take a look at what the Herald can get. I think we're probably going to find that we have got the best allocation I can work with right now. Oh, 28 is actually the fastest that we can go. So there was... I know there's an upper limit. I just couldn't remember what. Yeah, you know what? I think I'm just going to go with the team as it's built, and we're going to take this as an opportunity to learn. And it's the Manticore that's gotten shaken up, so I want to be kind of careful on that. Decelerating. Let's flank and finish them off. So it looks like we got 3 allies here, 1 mech and 2 tanks. And they might be rocket launchers, so that gives us some options. Yes! Alright. So I'm not crazy about this. We're going to cancel out that move. Okay, I'm happy enough with these. And this big guy is firing at the enemy. Okay. I don't hate the options here. But what I do want to do instead, I'd much rather direct my attention to this enemy with the railgun repeater. And the reason for that was the enemy unit was moving behind this building, and so it would have been, it would have already been obstructed. It would have obstructed a few of the shots. This guy, again, I want to make sure that he's reasonably safe. Basically, as long as there's enough heat, I'm going to keep launching stuff at him. Okay, so that's going to wind up getting hit. So I'm going to sort of just fall into the mountain. Okay, I feel like that's a pretty reasonable amount of damage. I could, of course, try and direct my own units. So this thing's got... Yeah, I'm fine with this one sort of making its own choices. So let's see what we're actually up against when it comes to enemy weapons. So this thing's got a missile launcher. This thing's got the railgun repeater. This does 330 damage. That's actually not that threatening. The missile launcher is fairly threatening, though. And then this guy has got an incendiary repeater, so the heat is the real worry. I'm not all that fussed about it, though, if I'm completely honest. But we do get an opportunity, like, at this point here, what I want to do is I want to try and find something that I can just sort of move into the area and unload on with my giant gun. So let's so if I do something like this. Okay. So essentially what I want to do is I want to be able to maneuver as best as I can. Okay. Yeah, so this is actually quite good. The one thing I'm a little worried about here is that this unit, this unit's actually focused on this one behind here, so I may get hit by the incendiary rounds. But I'll take that risk because we get a nice clear shot at this unit. It's the left arm, so they lose their side arm as a result. So I suppose, yeah, but the incendiary isn't actually that big of a worry, so. Okay, now the other thing I want to do is take out the, I want to take out the unit with the missile launcher, so try and take the best shots that we can. I'm not crazy about this one because they're going to be moving side to side, so overall they're a tougher target to hit. But it's what I've got at the start, so I've locked that in. And if I can make the machine gun work, so much the better, but I think maybe just moving my machine gunner up the middle, yeah. So they'll supplement the other shot. I'm crossing over into the other... Actually, you know what? Maybe I don't need to cross over. So if I dash... Okay, don't hit my ally. I'm not really sure that got me anything that I couldn't have already gotten, but... Alright, and then of course the final purpose or the final one, and the unit that kind of has this one sole purpose, which is to be as obnoxious as possible to the enemy units. All right, that's no good though. Okay, so once you plan out your turn like this is kind of to me, this is sort of the heart of the game. So you can sort of think of this like almost like Into the Breach. But for all of your effort, the big payoff is getting to see the big battle, and you can slow it down, which is exactly what I want to do, because there's some really good music that's going to play. So there's an order in which these things are going to happen. Right now everybody's getting in position, so we'll set it up. Okay, so I did get tagged by the enemy. Now this one is overkill. I forgot that we actually did decide to hit this guy as well. So we've got not just 2 of these heavy cannons. Well, we've got, or I guess heavy cannon. We've actually got the machine gun that's going to be focusing on this guy as well. Here we've got the Herald doing its thing with the tank. So the hope here is to try and take out... Yep, there we go. And then we do get to see some of these missile... Okay, they took out the pilot pretty easily there. I think this guy's concussed. We're backing them into a corner. Just a little more, boss, when we can get to those civilians. So if you ever wanted to know what it looks like in real time, there is a replay button. I'm just gonna switch it to repeat. And the game also does feature destructible buildings. So the thing that's really cool about this game, and the one thing that stops it from being able to have this full replay at the end, like, so you can do your turn-based replay, but there's not yet a full replay start to finish inside of the game. This game, I'm trying to remember the exact term. I think it's non-deterministic RNG. In any case, this game is simulating everything. And obviously there's going to be the one history that we play out, but essentially the way that this repeat is working is that the game is sort of taking snapshots of the state of all of these individual items, so that the random generation isn't the random numbers aren't like going too far off of what they otherwise would have been. It's not perfect. There have definitely been a couple of cases where on a replay I see something happening that didn't. But it's not like breaking. It's just one of these things. Like, honestly, it's the sort of thing where I'm like, this is an indie game. It's a beautiful looking indie game, incidentally. But it's the sort of thing where I'm like, I think I can live with what I'm seeing here. Kind of one. I'll point it out if I see it, but like it's not. I don't actually think it's that big of a deal. But yeah, it is. So, like, a lot of people complain about this, but I think the problem is that if you complain about this, it also requires acknowledgement of the really amazing thing about this game, which is literally everything here is simulated. So someone pointed out this absolutely ridiculous thing that this game does. I had a unit that was being chased down by some missiles, turned around, fired, and it just so happened that a bullet collided with one of the missiles, and it actually shot the missile out of the sky. Like, it's not something you can set up as a strategy, but like somebody pointed out, is like, did that just shoot the missile out of the sky? I'm like, nah, there's no way that they'd put that in, right? And then sure enough, nope, that's exactly what happened. So, and then like I've had one where like a missile winds up going between, one of my mech's legs. So again, if you've got like those 1 in a million shots, and you don't have a reliable way of recreating them with the degree of precision that you'd require, like essentially you just need to expand the requirement for memory so much more. The reason why you want to have like a replay is to be able to show off that really amazing moment. And so if you go for too coarse a resolution, you're not going to be able to recreate that amazing moment. And if you go for too fine a resolution, then you're cutting people away from being able to play the game. But the thing is that this game at one point didn't have a replay at all, other than just sort of showing you how the turn turned out. So there's some really amazing talent behind the game. I have no idea if or when a full replay would be implemented, but it's definitely one that they want to make people happy about, provided that it doesn't involve sacrificing something important for the game. So, all right, but we're doing pretty well on the mission here. So I can try and take out the unit with the incendiary repeater. I can try and take out a couple of tanks. Trying to think what's the best option here. Well, the Herald's kind of a tank muncher now, so let's... Oh, but the tank knows better. Okay, so it's going to use its autocannon basically on this unit the entire time. Now, these are kind of a bit of a worry. These are elevated tanks, so one of my most reliable get-out-of-jail-free cards was to just go behind something, and I wouldn't need to worry. And then they added the elevated tanks, and I realized that they're on to me. So what we're going to do is we're going to run around the side. So there's the dotted line, which gives a good but not perfect indicator about what's going to hit you. And then what I'll do is I'll take advantage of my positioning to hit the guy in the back, as brave warriors often do. So that's the Herald spoken for. Given the current situation, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take on the tank, and we're going to do the same strategy as before. We're just going to swarm this thing with missiles. Oh. I have absolutely no problem just leaving this guy. Okay, so that says too close. Aha. Oh wow, that's a really far range. Okay. So what I was missing was the sort of the gray circle. So that's really the window through which I can make that work. Okay. It's a bit of a shame, but we'll do our best. So the good news is this guy's not really being targeted by anything. So I think what I'll do instead is we'll just let her rip on the tank. So I want to get rid of those, the dotted line before I commit. Okay, that's looking a little bit better. And this unit doesn't seem to be threatened by anything. So I suppose the question is there a way that I can make the... So if I just stay put, and I open fire on this unit, there's almost no consequence for it, but they do wind up moving somewhere that I can't do as much damage. Okay, so here's how I'm gonna try and have it both ways. So once they start moving to a position where my chance to hit starts falling, I'm actually gonna move up so that we can try and capture the last of it. The chance to hit's pretty atrocious on that actually, so. So if I do the alternative, so I move around the side like this, that shows some promise. I don't think I want this unit to focus on the tank. I think I want them to focus on the other enemy unit over here. So I was thinking maybe I could get around the side like this, but it doesn't quite work. It's basically the same, it's the same trick as last time. But I just don't really see another way. I will make one exception here, and that's going to be for the tank. So take the shot, sort of scooch up a little bit, and then, yeah. Alright, let's see how that turns out. You can already see the guy in the background causing him some trouble. Alright, so that unit's down. And I think that's it for the... battle. Cool. I've still got it. So, at the end, it's not a mech game if you don't have some fancy scrap to covet. In this case, there's only a couple of rare items for us, so I think I will still pick up the blast and the arrow legs. We can always scrap them after the fact, but the rest of it here is just a matter of trying to maximize my scrap. So we'll start by scrapping the torsos. We can probably ditch the Astra torso. So basically anything that's 38 in terms of scrap, we'll get rid of that first. Okay, so the big thing on this one is I wanted to minimize the damage that I took. This is the overworld, so essentially here we're trying to take this region back, Bjorn. And in this case, it's a sparsely populated region known mainly for its agriculture. Bjorn is also a commuter hub with a very little tertiary industry. So the idea here is you, when you contest the province, there is your strength and then there's the enemy strength. And in this particular case here, we've been, getting a lot of wins against the occupation forces, but they're not completely knocked down yet. So what we want to do, we want to win some more battles against them, and generally, if you can take strongholds, those will be a little bit better than just winning individual battles. However, you don't want to leave the home guard out sort of to, you don't want to leave them completely on their own. Otherwise, you're going to be in some hot water. So, I'm going to take a minute here. I do want to cruise for a minute just so that we can repair. All right, there's another battle site. But yeah, so in this case here, they will lose if we don't come in to help. But we are in a point right now where we've got enough health and some capabilities to, to take on the different enemy forces. So, pin drop. The base is tense and quiet. You can hear the rat-a-tat of guns in the distance, and smoke is thick just ahead of you. One of your pilots tries to break the tension with a joke, but there's only nervous laughter in response. As you get closer to the fight, you see burning mechs, but they are too damaged to tell which side of the fight they might have belonged to. You all turn your eyes away. The home guard sent out a distress signal, and engineer says, "Are we going to answer it? Suit up." So there really wasn't that much in terms of scrap that I picked up. I will take a quick look just to see what's there for the, for the team. But I'm not expecting to spend a whole lot of time on mech customization. So we'll use the Manticore just because on paper it's the weakest. So arrow legs, 375, but too heavy. And it was a sidearm, so we'll see whether or not the Herald can... So I don't think the arrow legs that I got are any better than the Vidar. Nope. But we were going to take a look at that sidearm. So we got the SGC Blast. Lower overall damage. Slightly shorter use. Basically, it's a shotgun. It's a hand shotgun. But it generates too much heat. The projectiles are slower, not that it matters because it's really close range. It's really just the fact that it does less damage overall, and it does no impact damage. So in this case, we're not able to destroy cover with it. So I just... Oh, hang on. No, it's the other way around. Nope, sorry, my apologies. So the Spark is good at destroying cover, but the shotgun for some reason doesn't actually take down... I think we can afford to scrap that one. Oh yes, I wanted to see how my pilots were doing. Okay, Foxtrot's still getting better. Alright, we're back. No critical issues blocking deployment, although it's always going to warn me about the Manticore just because there's no way to... It says no secondary item, but you can't have a weapon like this and also have a secondary item, so... Alright, Commander, the base is circled around to the perimeter. We're ready to pick the squad up if needed. The enemy will hold the site if you do so. Getting negative IFF code. We've got hostiles in range. Engage at will. Reinforcements should be coming soon. Alright, so one thing that's important to remember here is I do not need to take out the sentries as long as I take out the rest of the enemy forces. Now, there are enemy reinforcements that will arrive in 4 turns, and that's because of a nearby patrol. I gotta be honest with you, I don't see me taking all of these out in 4 turns. I'll do my best, but I rather expect what's going to happen here is I'll be fighting when the reinforcements show up, and then there's just going to be another 5 mechs to take out. Now the good news is you get a larger scrap budget if you do wind up taking out a lot of units, and of course the drawback is that I'm not going to be able to it'll just take me longer to do. So whether or not whether or not things taking longer is a hardship is a question I leave to you. Okay, so I'm curious if I can sort of sneak in between these 2 buildings and open fire on this guy. It doesn't look like I can. but let's confirm that. So that works. I have a feeling in practice this is going to wind up hitting the side of the building a couple of times, but I'm happy I at least have this option. Now, unfortunately, I need this guy in the action. It's going to take a while. So in this case, we'll just dash as far as we can. Actually, this guy's rather good at dashing. All right. There is not a lot to be mad about on this one. So under normal circumstances, I would have used this unit high up, but it looks like they're using their machine gun to try and take down my long-range unit, although their range is pretty deplorable. Well, what I'll do first, I'm going to set up, I believe the Herald was a rather good tank muncher last time, so we'll stick to our specialty. I suppose we can get a cheeky second round off. No, we can't. Okay, so if I ran this guy around this side... There's no real consequences for it, but it does open up a shot on this unit. I would have preferred to fire on the tank if I'm completely honest, but I don't have a good shot there, so I'm gonna stick with that. Okay, I see some possibilities here. Let me just make sure nobody's running into each other. Yeah, we're fine. I want to see how we handle the buildings here. Okay, that was surprisingly effective. Okay, sadly that wasn't enough to take out the tank. Okay, so first thing I want to take a look at is what is this guy up to? Okay, so they're going to want to return the favor to this unit at the end. So I keep going like this. Okay, so there's a little bit where I'm exposed, but it's not too bad. Now this unit's decided to focus on the Herald, which is fine. So I'm just going to head back. We'll finish the job on this tank. I'll go a second time just in case. Now this unit's basically going to be focusing on me for the rest of the turn. So what I can do, I can move up. And then what I'll do, this will be just sort of my opportunity to open fire on some of the other units. Although I don't think I'm going to have the heat, so we'll stay put there. Now, how are things going with this unit? That unit's down. So I still want to kind of keep this guy open for taking out enemy mechs. This fella, first of all, what's the... Okay. I want to be careful of the sentries. Now, if I were to just jump up onto the ledge here... Okay, so... Doesn't look like the smartest thing to do, but I wonder if there's a... Alright, so that's basically an opportunity for every weapon to hit me, so we're not going to do that. What I can do, though, is I can run down the end. Okay, so I don't seem to collide with my ally here, which is good. But what it does let me do is it lets me set up for when this guy exposes themselves. Yeah, it's too hot for a second shot, so I think I'm going to leave it there. Now, when this guy... I want this guy basically standing and firing. But once he throws the shield up, I actually want him to sort of exercise some sort of self-preservation, so we will move around the side. Okay, we're good. So the last thing that we need to do here is figure out how we're taking out another enemy mech. So if I just move forward like so, and wait... Okay, I don't really get much there. What I am curious about, is there a way that I can sort of angle this to... Okay, that's my second best if it comes down to it. Yeah, so basically, unless I want to hop up on the top of a building. Now, that is an option. So do something like that. Yeah, I'm just not crazy about the numbers on this, to be honest. So we can keep it simple. I'll just wait for the tank to show up. So basically we open fire. This will give us a little bit of breathing room at the end here, but we see what happens with this unit in the end. Alright, so that unit's taken out. I might trip over the... That's a real shame. There used to be a warning when that sort of thing would happen. How you doing, Breadest? Sorry, Breadest. Okay, so this is where we toss up our shield in a second. Oops, sorry. This is where the barrier is kind of nice too, because that recharges without too much fuss. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm rather surprised that this thing could withstand the full round from the heavy. So again, we've got 2 turns to clean everything up. I am slightly more optimistic on my prospects than I was before. Man, everybody's really, really ready to pile on. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. Move back. Okay, I think actually I need to start with a dash. Yeah, so this unit's definitely going to take some damage. I'm going to do basically a big circle and make sure that I have my revenge. Oh, interesting. So we're trying to avoid the retaliation. Okay. It's not great, but now the good news is it does open up this unit. So we're definitely gonna make sure we take them out if we can. Not too bad. I'm groggy. But I feel like I'm slowly starting to sort of tick through some of the things I need. I'm going to be a little more strict about the finish time today. But, excuse me. I'm hoping over the next couple of days a couple of big projects will finally finish, and then I can sort of refocus my efforts. I don't want to. I try where I can not to take on jobs where I feel like I'm gonna get tired of them. Oh, I know why the tank. So if you take a look, most of those attacks didn't hit the intended target. Okay, so I know how we're fixing this. But yeah, I try not to take on projects that I think I'm gonna like get tired of, or the sort of thing that I can't like commit to in the very end. I do have a problem of maybe overcommitting to stuff. But I am sort of at the point where it'd be kind of nice to have something sort of fresh to work on, and and be able to clean things out. How you doing, Tikri? I'm sorry I didn't reply to you, but I might have been occupied. I'm sure you know why. And if you don't, it's this. That's actually maybe more for the rest of chat rather than you, just in case people think that there are too many secrets. Yeah. But yeah, no. I don't know. It's like it's nice. It's nice to do big things. It's nice to try and it's nice to try and keep busy. But I definitely feel like it'd be nice to just sort of get this batch done, be able to take stock, and then sort of move on to the next thing. All right, let's see if we can clear this out. Okay, so I mean I'm damaged, but as long as the right arm isn't taken out, I think we got away with murder. I may get hit by my own attacks, though. Just a couple. Okay, so that unit's going to eject when the time comes. This unit has ejected, so at this point, we just need to clear out this this tank, and we're good. So these aren't even ideal shots. I mostly just want to make sure that we're throwing everything, including the kitchen sink. Uh-oh. That's a little unnecessary damage there. Alright, victory. All hostiles eliminated. Site is now under control. So, there is definitely an argument for letting the reinforcements show up and sort of claim the extra scrap, but I tend to prefer, like, I don't know, I just sort of feel like the base rewards that you get for completing a mission. So in this case, we wound up with some workshop charges and a recharge battery. I just tend to feel like it's better to just do lots of missions rather than try to get too clever with, with trying to maximize your parts. Okay, so here's the deal. I am feeling a little groggy, and I could do with a refill on my tea. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to collect this scrap. We have exactly one more battle to do, so it feels appropriate to, help the home guard on the battle site. I will do a standard move towards it, but before we do the next battle, I'm going to take a little bit of a break. Part of it is going to be, I might want to rush on that patrol. Alright, see you, suckers. But yeah, what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to take a little bit of a break. I'm not going to make it like a super long one, or at least I'll try, but it is going to take a bit longer than it takes the kettle. And that's just mostly because, not that everybody needs to know like my life story or something like that, but I had like a really big presentation to do yesterday, and it seems to have gone very well. It's not going to change the fact that I'm going to be underpaid and underappreciated for what I do, but at the very least, the presentation was recognized as a success. But pretty much an hour after it, my laptop, like my work laptop, just kind of wasn't functioning properly. I think it was kind of a straightforward fix, but again, it's, your IT department locks you out from all the interesting features, and long story short, they eventually wound up replacing it, but there was 24 hours practically where I didn't have my laptop. And I actually have a big, the presentation was not for this, but it happens to have coincided with another big deadline, which definitely had some stuff that needed to be done and I didn't have access to do. So I've actually had a very, very full and rather stressful day just because I have essentially needed to get a major project done largely through emails and not being actually able to see the stuff that is going to get sort of released and shared and all of that tomorrow. So this is a long way of saying that essentially when I finally got the replacement done, I had to go into the office for that, and I figured, okay, well, I'll just I'll just finish the rest of my day in the office. But basically, I went from that. I stayed too long at the office, so I wolfed down dinner and then started streaming. And I've kind of been going nonstop today. So before I sort of commit to the last sort of third of the stream in a bit, I just kind of need a minute to reset. And part of that is definitely going to be getting my tea, but also just getting a bit of a stretch, just being able to, I don't know, go and yell in a pillow or something like that for a little bit. I just need to I need a minute to just settle down. So as relaxing as it was to climb the giant man, I figure I just need a little bit of a breather. So again, I'm not going to make this an excessive bit of time off, but it is going to be more than necessary just so that I can reset and I can maybe hopefully be a bit more present and active for the stream. So I of course encourage you all as well, if you've been in front of your screen all day, if you've been I know you don't really need that much of an excuse for a break. Maybe this is your break, but either way, I do encourage you to sort of get up, take a stretch, go do something. Don't watch the ads. But we will be back for some more Phantom Brigade once I'm able to sort of shake the fuzz out. So we'll be back in a little bit. Okay, I'm really sorry about that. I think that was like 15 minutes long. So, I had thought I turned the kettle on, and I didn't, and I almost nodded off while I was waiting. So sorry about that. Excuse me. Okay, so we're back. Hello, Aegis Sounder. Oh, let's go to the battle site. Now let's try and make up for lost time. Take them out. You followed a distress signal put out by the Home Guard to squash some enemy forces at this battle site. One of your pilots is Jumpy. They mean business, Commander. They really want to win this war. Another shrugs. I reckon we can take him. What do you think, boss? Hello, Tikri. Or hello, well, hello again. But yes, thank you. Thank you. I'm feeling quite embarrassed about the time that took, to be honest. Although I have some gummies, so I'll try not to smush them too much into the mic, but an impossible mission. That's got to be because of the reinforcements. I don't think 5 units is impossible. So I do want to spend some time looking at my units just so I can see if I can get some improvements. This might be good for the longbow. So how is this an improvement? If I go from... Oh, because probably this is a fraction that's smaller, greater than 5, but smaller than 7. Well, what possibly could be greater than 5 and smaller than 7? What number could possibly be between those two? We might be reinventing mathematics here. Yeah, there is no way we're replacing that. I don't like any of these. All right. We'll step back. Let's take a look at the longbow. So the marksman rifle has worked very well for me so far. I don't want to close myself off from the lock. So the thing that's nice about this baseline is a very straightforward weapon. Please don't make me try and answer such hard questions. I'm no scientist yet. Well, you did see me struggle with the proof of the irrationality of 2, so who knows where that would have taken us. All right, so I don't want to close myself off to the possibility because this is a good weapon, but it is a simple one. It's 1,000 damage, at a fair distance. It's like a moderate distance. So the lock here is kind of tempting. Considerably longer range, to a point that may actually be a liability. Faster projectile speed, slightly higher heat generation. I actually think the biggest drawback here is the action duration. So I do like that this thing does more damage. But 6 shots over 2 seconds, that doesn't work for me. Can get a little more speed out of this. I suppose the question is, am I willing to give up the weight, or not the weight? Am I willing to give up so much integrity? I mean, the longbow isn't exactly that threatened. On the other hand, like 0.2, giving up so much integrity for a 0.2 gain, that doesn't really seem all that good. So I might go for this. So here's what I'm going to do. Let's... this is the right arm. Okay. Can I get an improvement? No. But I do like the fact that I can get this one up to 28. Alright, it's been a while since I've reviewed the machine guns, so let me just take a quick second and see what those... Okay, not too much going on here. There's a Svalin, so this does have... I mean, it's not a lot. It's 16 more integrity and then 14 more barrier. So, and in exchange for that, I will get another 4.5 mass. I don't think that's a good deal. The actual perspective of the screen? Sorry, I didn't quite, I don't quite follow, Brettist. So the big problem here is I don't have, like, there's definitely speed that I can gain here, but I think most of these speed gains come at the expense of armor. Okay, I can work with this. Didn't realize the size of the robots until you paid enough attention. Oh, yeah. So, if we go to units, so we'll take a look at the Manticore here. So, normally there's like a technician walking around. I kind of wonder what happened to them. Oh, there they are. And then if you look in the pilot's window, these are like the frames for the mechs, so they're not the actual loadouts, but you get a bit of an idea in terms of the shape. I will be honest with you, like, there is one bit of a, I don't know, for me, like a slight bit of unclarity, because if I recall from the videos, the pilots are in the head, and these heads just seem a little too small for the pilot to actually fit inside. The answer might be because, you know, like the actual part that you sit in may be, you know, maybe like not on the main frame. But with that in mind, like when I take a look at the Manticore, I'm kind of trying to figure out exactly how the pilot fits inside of it. But like, I don't spend that much time thinking of it, right? It's a good looking game. I don't like, and again, I could be wrong thinking that it's in the, yeah, and that's entirely possible, because like the reason for thinking that, actually, I can show you the original trailer. So I'm just going to mute the lovely music in the background here so you can see it. I know for those of you here for gameplay, like, it'll just be a second, but this might be educational. Let's just. So this is the teaser trailer for the game.
can only hold this for 5 more seconds.
I only need 3, 2, 1, go!
All local time threads are converging. There's nothing more we can do here.
Ah, okay. No, I get it now. You're right. It is in the torso.
No.
Oop.
Not today.
Honestly, I should have known this. Sooner. So the mistake that I had made was because you've got this bit.
I can only hold this for 5 more seconds.
I'm trying to remember. There's a scene in the cockpit where it sort of turns around the. Oh yeah, here we go.
Get to the shower now!
So what I had mistaken this for was actually a move into the head, but it's absolutely a recess in the chest like you're describing. And the reason I should have known this, it's actually they do a good job with the cameras, and then I just sort of picked the one. So, like basically, I'm assuming these are all projections inside of the cockpit and the chest. But when you pull out,
nothing more we can do here.
It's in that area, and of course, this is the part that ejects when you do the eject command. So yeah, I was totally out to lunch on that. Sorry. Let me know if this is too loud, but I'm trying to restore the game to its glory. Okay. So yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, as long as we're able to take these guys out before the reinforcements show up, I think we should be in for a pretty easy fight. Dropping in, command is getting impatient. Let's get this over and done with. Okay, so we've got another mech and 2 tanks. Questions like that is why my stuff is pure gold. Because it takes me so long to figure them out, or because I actually take the time to figure it out. All right, these things are a bit of a pain to deal with. Yeah, 3 stagger, 15 concussive, and a pretty solid amount of damage. That's I think a tank. Okay, so we've got a unit with a marksman rifle, a unit with the plasma repeater. Actually, it's easier if I just do these. And a missile launcher. Okay, this guy's sitting on a machine gun. So, public enemy number 1 for me is the guy with the plasma repeater. Okay, so sadly I can't get to the guy I really want to target, but we can at least open fire with the machine gun for a bit. So the goal here is going to be to take this unit, which is actually targeted by an enemy tank, but it's a machine gun, an assault rifle. So, oh, thank you, got my view for. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, right? Like, it's I don't want to like hold it up as some sort of an ideal. Like in the end, it's just going to be like what you find interesting. But I also kind of feel like people probably should give them a chance to be maybe a little bit more interested in things than they give themselves credit for. Like, sometimes there can be that worry of embarrassment, right? Like, you don't know something and you don't want to admit that you don't know something. And I completely understand that impulse for some people. And then in other cases, it can be like, maybe someone sort of stepped on a set of interests, and so someone's maybe a little more reluctant to follow through on them in the future. Like, there's a lot of different ways that stuff can be can kind of be put on the back burner. But yeah, the biggest thing is just like, if you really like, one of the things I used to do in university, especially in grad school, was that I have a set of interests that, like, so obviously if you're motivated enough on a subject to go to grad school, you've got to have something that you're interested in, right? Like, why on earth? Well, I mean, I guess some people are just going for another piece of paper, but even then, if you're going to be there, at least make it interesting, right? But one of the things that I did try to do was, if I could find like a course that sounded kind of boring, but I knew was taught by like a good teacher. And this could be, they've got a very good academic reputation. This could be that, they're, like a world expert. I mean, they'd presumably have a good academic reputation if they're a world expert in it. But like, the logic behind that was that, like, if I only did courses that sounded like fun, the truth of the matter is that I'm probably motivated enough to read the fun stuff on my own. That doesn't mean that I get the benefit of like expert education from it. It's important to remember that reading for fun still is a different experience from being taught by someone. But the thing is that, like, I think the fun stuff that has enough motivation to kind of get you through the tough stuff. But if you do the boring stuff, but maybe boring but like really important, that's the stuff that maybe you won't study unless you have an exam to pass. And it turns out that some of those were actually some of the most interesting classes that I'd taken or wound up taking. So, and again, you want to reward yourself. Like, if you do, math is really important, but math is also quite difficult. So if you like sign yourself up for like, real analysis and, whatever advanced calculus course you can get into, and like, linear algebra, and, maybe you're also in like an econ and a comp sci department, so you add data structures and algorithms and like advanced econometrics and that's going to be a miserable term, because you only have so much bandwidth, and all of those courses are going to expect you to perform. But just making sure that, it's not always, like, I love philosophy. But like, if you take a term and it's like 6 different ethics courses, that'll be fun. But, either you're not having some of your vegetables, or it means that you're deferring some of those to one term, which is going to be absolutely miserable because you're taking on a lot of challenging things. So just a nice little balance, hopefully across different disciplines, because that's just a way that you learn more about the world and keep things interesting. But especially to what Bread Test said, like, you'll pass on the math courses. It's tough, right? Like, math is a lot more interesting than it gets credit for, but it's also one which it can be taught in a really good way, and it's often taught in a way that works for people who are already good at math. But yeah, I mean, to the thing that you said here, you're not the smartest, but that shouldn't stop you from learning more. I don't think so I've had the great fortune of meeting some very smart people, and I don't think they've ever identified themselves as smart people. I think they have always identified themselves as people who have quite a bit to learn. I think good number of them have exhibited quite a bit of curiosity, which I find very admirable. But I'll be honest with you, the only people who have like really identified, like who like kind of come up as like, hello, my name is so and so, you know, I'm a very smart person, are the ones who very rarely actually deliver the goods. So yeah, I think, you know, there's a lot of different ways that you can approach this sort of stuff, but I tend to find allowing yourself to be interested in something and following that as far as you can, or at least as far as your interest will allow you, will probably, I think it'll probably be enough for most of what you need. You know, I don't want to be so, you know, I don't want to completely, you know, invent some sort of world where it's like, yeah, you know, intelligence has absolutely nothing to do with, you know, with any of this. No, like obviously if you're a sharp, you know, if you're a sharp person and you do a course, you're probably going to maybe see something that the rest of us don't. But, you know, it's also fair to say, like, this idea of someone who's just like naturally smart and they're just automatically good at everything that they do, that's almost certainly not true. And I definitely feel like putting in the effort tends to be half the battle. But like I said, right? Sometimes people just need to be given, almost like given permission to be curious. So yes, I would encourage you to follow your interests. Oh, that's such a shame. Yeah, in my university, they had an expectation that you would take breadth courses. Now, there are definitely ways of like gaming it. So if you're like a sciences major, like one of the things you can do is you can sign up for like a logic course. I mean, one of the ways they get around that is like they also have to be at certain levels. So like you can't completely get away with like, hey, I'm a mathematician and I'm going to go and sign up to this, you know, philosophy course, you know, 101 Introduction to Logic. And like all that is just your math proofs course all over again. And I definitely knew some people who did that. And then, you know, likewise, you know, there's kind of arts equivalents where, you know, you'll find, you know, some course that is in the Faculty of Science, but it like winds up being, you know, it just winds up being so close to what you're already studying that it really doesn't cover the breadth thing. And that I tend to find is a little bit of a shame, because you need to think like, why is the university asking you to do that? Like, do they just like making you miserable, or is there some purpose that this serves? And of course, the purpose is that, you know, it makes you a more well-rounded individual, that can sort of appreciate different perspectives and, you know, and ultimately just be able to do more, right? So there's the rather famous example Steve Jobs gave of, you know, I think he snuck into some university courses, and I think one of them was like a calligraphy course, and he sort of attributes the, you know, the fonts and the way that the Apple OS looks like to that calligraphy course. And I don't know, I happen to like that sort of stuff. Like, I definitely have my own interests, and I'm definitely not good at everything. I think that's probably already been established. There's a fairly long streaming record of you know, of my screw ups on things. But you never know what's going to be useful. And I think one of the most useful things for me is the ability to make analogies. And obviously, if you get exposed to a lot of different ideas, it gives you sort of a framework for being able to sort of think through things. I think it was actually Kepler who talked a lot about the power of analogies. And again, you don't want to completely go nuts with them. So, the mind is like a wax tablet. It's like, oh, so if I heat the mind, it becomes a little bit more pliable. It's like, no, that's not where I'm going with it, right? You can get into some weird places with analogies, but it's definitely, I think it might even be something where there's some empirical evidence for it. It's definitely a very useful way of thinking, and it lets you extend your reasoning a lot farther than where you'd normally wind up going. So, all right, let's lock in this turn and see how it goes. So again, this is public enemy number 1. The good news is that a lot of the enemy units aren't firing this turn, so I get a few early strikes on them. We'll probably take their legs out at least. That's actually probably caused me more problems than help. Because it's still... Oh, there we go. They're down. We've lost 1 unit. That's 1 too many. Make sure that this is the last casualty, or command will be hearing about this. Okay, so they're going to be trying to tear up the battlefield, and Man, they made a really curious choice here. So they went in the middle of my... They went in the middle of my territory to fire with a marksman rifle, which isn't exactly known for its short-range capabilities. Okay. 3 enemy units. So mech number 1 is the marksman that's sort of running around in the middle. Number 2 is the missile launcher with the shield. So they are going to be going after the unit with the marksman rifle. So I got a couple of ideas how to deal with that. I have one idea how to deal with that. Alright. So this... Oh, okay. So gonna shake off a little bit of the heat while they're firing. Oh, that's no good. It's the AutoCAD. Okay. It's a little weird that I'm like running into the unit that's firing missiles at me. But it's kind of the only move I've got right now. So hopefully that deals with the missiles. I'll wrap up the rest of the turn just sort of figuring out the angle I wanna take on this. Okay, there's just not enough heat, so I'll set myself up for retaliation on both. I figure with the Herald, given where we are, I can just set myself up and we will open fire on the elevated tank while they're trying to cause problems for my ally. You can tell I've gotten really used to the rainstorms, just based on how much I'm trying to overheat my guys. Okay, so it looks like we're still focused on this unit here. So what I'll do is I'll hold the position till the end of the attack. I'm going to move back a little bit. And then we'll finish the round opening fire on this guy. Now, I feel like we can probably do a little bit better with the allied unit. So again, we finish the shot. Okay, there's a bit of a drop off there, but nothing worth getting too upset about. I'm gonna completely cancel these moves. I feel like I need a better idea in terms of what this unit's gonna do. You know what? It's actually quite simple. So let's. So they just stay still. That's not that bad, actually. Now, this guy's gonna take it kind of hard. So that's 600 damage. That is actually enough to kill the body, or... So any 1 point that gets hit by that is toast. So counterintuitively, one of the things I can do, if we take a look at the optimal range, one of the counterintuitive things I can do is actually move in closer. So we can take a look at what that does. So it started at 80. Just by this first part of the move, it goes down to 62. So that's 20% off of the... that's 20% off of the kind of the hit value. And then by the end of the shot, it's actually down to 25. So the real aim here is not to avoid taking the damage. That's impossible. But it's to minimize whatever damage is coming in. And we can get all of the stats on the... well, not all of the stats, but we can get a number of the stats on the unit. So it's total damage, 600. Actually, that's kind of funny. Okay, no, it's 6. I get it now. It's 6 shots. So 6 shots over a 2-second window. And what we're trying to do is sort of minimize it. And then, assuming we're still standing, we we limp away. But what I can do while we're setting up, I'll just see if there's anybody in range while we do our thing. And yeah, it's definitely it's a really unique kind of game. So there are a couple that are like it. There's quite an old one called Frozen Synapse, although it does have a couple of more recent sequels. So Frozen Synapse has a sports-based sequel or follow-up called Frozen Cortex, and then has a full sequel called Frozen Synapse 2. Now, I don't want to be unfair to it because I was actually given a copy of Frozen Synapse 2 for sort of promotional purposes. It's a game I wanted to like a lot more than I actually did. I think they did some neat stuff with it, but I also feel like there were a couple of choices that didn't quite make sense to me. And they wound up... like, they were enough to kind of... like I'm kind of 50-50 on playing it sometimes. Like some things I really like about it, and then some other ones I'm kind of like, yeah, but this thing comes in and like, I don't know, like maybe I'll just play something else. But it's a shame because like I think at its heart, Frozen Synapse is a really solid game, and it's one that I like recommending to people. So if nothing else, try Frozen Synapse, and if you're really into it, I think Frozen Synapse 2 is good. I just feel that there were some things that maybe could have made it better. Maybe that's the way I would put it. And that's true for a lot of games. But the difference with that one is that one doesn't give you kind of knowledge of what the enemy action is, whereas this game does. So the better analogy I would draw would be Into the Breach, because Into the Breach will tell you the order in which the enemies are attacking, and you already know what their positions are. So a very large part of that game is about navigating this situation where, you know, attacks happen in certain orders and you're given the ability to intervene. So in this case, the game is, you know, it doesn't take place on a grid, and, you know, it's definitely very free form. It doesn't really take turns. It's, you know, all the actions happen simultaneously, and yet the feeling of setting up the battle and performing all of your actions in that really is present. So yeah, I don't know if this is something that appeals to you. So first of all, Phantom Brigade's wonderful, and I naturally recommend people check it out. But if you already like Phantom Brigade and you're looking for other experiences like this, I definitely say Frozen Synapse, Frozen Cortex, Frozen Synapse 2, and Into the Breach would be a few examples of something that they're not this game. There really isn't anything like this game, but they have enough of the features that I think make this game fun and unique that I feel comfortable sort of recommending people check them out. Sorry, I'm enjoying a gummy. All right. I think I'm just going to keep blasting away at the mech. So yeah, this guy actually hasn't taken that much damage. So I think with that in mind, maybe we put the big guns on him. I just need to make sure I don't hit my own people when I do that. Yeah, so the problem here is if I move in close, then that doesn't work. So I do something like this, maybe? Not ideal, but I think it's the best I'm going to get it in the circumstances, so. I'm also invested in how this one turns out. Yeah, that's not a lot of damage they've taken at all. So the unit with the marksman's down. We do have some missiles that are still chasing after my guy. Okay, and they're about to crash into the ground. I think we're ready to speed this up. So not quite enough to finish him off, but we're backing them into a corner. Just a little more boss, and then we can get those civilians. So, 2 more units to take down. This one's, as long as we can take out its right arm, we actually wind up with a bunch of scrap. The only catch is that they're sort of running away. There's definitely a couple things I can do to make this a little more effective. So what I want to do here, remembering that everything's simulated, so the angle at which we attack from matters quite a bit. So I'm not actually gonna use everyone this turn. This unit's crashing, so it's gonna be going after my Herald just shortly after. Yeah, that's kind of grim, actually. So I either need to overheat or I need to need to run to safety. I honestly think running to safety is the better call because I've got somebody else available. So what we'll do here, we'll take our unit with the marksman rifle, and we'll get the drop on the tank. So this is basically stuck because one of its treads have been taken out. This should be sufficient to take the unit out. It's 100% of the damage, but I'll maybe... Oh, actually, I don't have the heat for a second run. I'm sure this is going to crash into something. No, but it doesn't... Yeah. I still need a different turn. Okay. Changing how I'm using this one. So move this unit back and then fire at the enemy. So again, the idea here is I'm trying to preserve the scrap for this unit. So as long as I can take out the right arm, we're good. If I do anything more than the right arm, I potentially lose out on some scrap. So let's see how it goes. Who doesn't have an order? Ah, the Manticore, right. So this is a little more straightforward, actually. So I basically want to position them so that they can do something big next turn if they have to. Alright. Unfortunately, we're not quite at the right angle. Taking every fire, send word to command that we've lost units. So I didn't actually see what happened there. We'll put that on repeat just to see. Okay. Probably didn't require a full replay. We probably could have guessed. Yeah, this guy's going down swinging. This guy's still finishing his attack. I'm actually not that worried about it, but... I'm just going to try dashing to safety. Okay, so they fire after my guy. I don't really see us... I don't actually really see... I don't really see this unit surviving, but I still kind of like to try and get the extra scrap if I can, so... Oh, nice. So they will eject. All hostiles eliminated, site under control. Okay, so again, the aim behind this was really just to get a little bit more in terms of scrap. As it turns out, the one bit of scrap we would have wanted to take was shot out from under them. But still, we can definitely get away with some low cost goodies. So we got another 20 to run around with. Province liberated. Thanks to your efforts, the enemy was driven out of the contested province. Resistance forces will hold it from here on out. Complete victory. The invaders have slunk away with their tails between their legs thanks to your decisive and bold maneuvers. Multiple messages come in from different officers in the Home Guard grateful for your contributions. The radios are also jammed with messages of celebration that fly from town to town in the area, all happy to contribute to kicking the last of the invaders from these lands. A pilot approaches you, while others are distracted by the celebrations going on outside the base. Can we celebrate, boss, just for tonight? I think we've earned it. So we can join the parade. You can't spare the entire night off, but a few hours will suffice. Or leave. I will definitely join the parade. And one big reason for that is actually my pilots. Oh, actually, looks like everybody's back to normal. Still, I think it's not bad to follow up on a parade. But yeah, so the idea here was I just had that one. I had the 6 points that I needed to get. So essentially, anything that I did would work, but I don't know. It feels nice to protect the Home Guard. They are the ones fighting for their homeland after all. Now, delivering mail, that's in Kongen's land. So what we're gonna do, I really don't have the time to do another engagement, I feel. And do you know what exactly is being fought? Oh, sorry, hang on. Oh, sorry. I would say it's a shame how your universities work, but it's basically made that richer people go to schools that give them lessons like learning an instrument and such, so it makes sense. Sorry, for some reason I missed that second message, Brentis, but I'm sorry to hear that. Obviously, I mean, I have a great appreciation of the academy. It took me a longer time to get into university than I think is normal for most people. So like I started working straight out of high school and then I went to university. Whereas I know most people kind of, I guess in like the UK, there's kind of the tradition of like the gap year, but for me, like it would not be uncommon, let's say, for people to go straight out of high school into university and then then you kind of start your career. But I don't know, like I didn't really conceive of myself as a very academic person. Like I liked reading and I liked ideas. But a large part of what ultimately motivated me to get to university was reading that I wound up doing in the library in Vancouver. Because and the reason why I started looking for that stuff was my music player broke. Definitely didn't have any money to replace it. So in order to avoid being bored on a commute, I desperately went to the library to get a library card, and a lot of that stuff that I was interested in from Civilization, those were the sorts of things I started picking up the books for. So I remember really specifically philosophy being one of the first things I picked up, because there's a wonderful game called Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri, which gave a lot of, it gave a lot of good quotes from very readable philosophers. And so that became sort of the interest. And so, of course, when I was ready to go to school, I had this kind of, not exactly foundation, but I had a little bit of a map of the territory in terms of some of the things that I wanted to check out. And even then, I wound up sort of changing what I was interested in. So I was very much considering going to school for philosophy. But when I discovered economics, I really liked it, so I went into that. But I did a bit of classics. I did a little bit of computer science. Way too much economics. I did a little bit of mathematics. English. I would have liked to have done more English, but there's only so much you can fit into a given schedule. But the one thing that I can appreciate, right, is that a lot of that stuff that I was interested in was because of sort of self-directed reading. And again, that's just a large part of sort of following your interests. And if you don't know what your interests are yet, keeping yourself open enough to new things to find what they are. Because, I don't know, like, I'd be lying if I said I found everything equally interesting. And there's certainly a lot of subjects I wish I knew more about, and I just haven't had the time, or I haven't had kind of the right angle to attack them from. But being able to, I guess, basically being able to try and follow those interests without feeling that you need to get permission, or like feeling like you need to have some kind of a test or something like that, could be a really good thing. Because like I think one of the things that's unfortunately true about a lot of MOOCs, like massively online open online courses, is that there's a very high enrollment rates, but there's often very low completion rates. And it's such a shame, because it means that there were people who are interested in something, but something between that initial interest to finishing the course got in the way. And in some cases, it's good to be able to quit, or to sort of realize that something isn't for you. I think there's a lot of value in being able to do that. But you also don't want to, you don't want to like leave off too quickly either. Like you don't want to start something and like the first time it gets difficult to go away. Because of course it's like, for me, exercise has been kind of a big hang on, is it Tuesday or Wednesday today? It's Wednesday, my god. Okay, gotta remember to do something. But like I got out of habit in terms of like regular exercise again. I walk all over the place, so it's not like I'm completely abandoning exercise, but I definitely could stand to put a little bit more focus time into working out. But the thing about that, right, is that if I only do the stuff that's easy, I'm not really doing it. But if I do things that are overwhelming, then I'm not going to do it either. It's finding that sort of sweet spot in between. But yeah, I definitely, if you don't feel like you're in an environment that allows you to sort of follow those interests as well as you can or you would like, there's hopefully there's an angle that you can find that will allow you to follow through on the things that you're interested in. And, whether that's checking out web pages, whether that's signing books out of the library, sitting in a quiet room and contemplating the nature of the universe on your own. There's a bunch of different ways of trying to go for it. But yeah, after seeing this, I can only think of the millions these would cost. Yeah, I don't actually know. I don't know if it ever quantifies how much one of the mechs in Phantom Brigade would cost, but it's definitely an alternative history that this game is set up. It's never really that explicit in terms of the story. I suspect that there was probably a little bit more that they wanted to go with for the story here, but I do know from the developers, they said that essentially this is an alternative history in which basically a kind of this artificial intelligence for these small squads allows them to see a small period into the future and gain a tactical advantage. But yeah, I think if you're asking who's being fought, so in this case here, the story for the game is that there was an occupying force that came in and has effectively overrun the country. I believe the Phantom Brigades, so you start in this province, and I think it's suggested, if not outright said, that it is actually a few years, or at the very least an extended period of time from the initial invasion, which occurs in the tutorial, to this liberation of the homeland. And essentially what happens is you go from province to province, you amass enough, there used to actually be a mechanic where you would build up sort of the resistance in a region before you finally overthrew it. I believe now you can just enter a province and kind of begin the revolution. But essentially there's sort of a fight with an occupying force, and essentially you go from province to province to take out the invasion force. The main goal actually is the capital district, so in theory I could actually just go running in and do the last level right now. I could have done that from the very beginning, but you'll notice that this is a 900 difficulty region. There's a reason there's a little skull and crossbones on it. And I know we need to liberate our homeland, but we do also need to deliver the mail. I mean, we got to get our priorities right. But yeah, so in this case, it's an occupying force. We're essentially conducting an insurgency in this game. So it's a little XCOM 2-ish in that sense. They say you wouldn't even say gap years are actually that common for working class people here in the UK. You did take a year to make a portfolio, and none of it involved going overseas or having fun. Yeah, well, this is the thing I keep hearing too. Like, a gap year. I've heard it sort of referred into a few things. So I guess maybe this is an indication that I watch too much aspirational television, where, like, you know, the idea of the gap year is like you're going off and I don't know, you're going to Rome and seeing all the ancient sites before going to, you know, do your, I don't know, your PPE and becoming a member of parliament or something like that. Whereas I always just kind of took that as like being a year, and it's not even necessarily that you're globetrotting. It's just sort of like a year where you figure out what you're doing. But yeah, I'm learning more that the gap year is actually a specific, as you say, upper class thing. But yeah, I don't know. I actually think there is some value in, like, so number one, like, obviously having experiences is a big thing. Like, you know, we've got a life. We want to be able to have some fun with it and you know, do what we can, right? It's why, if you think about it, like, we definitely have a very sort of material way of looking at the world. So sometimes it's like, I want to get stuff, right? I got to go to a job so I can get some stuff. Hey, I finally got these best, you know, the best cutlery. I'm happy. I'm winning at life. But of course, with that point of view, we'd say it's like, oh, I spent some money hanging out with friends. Well, I don't have anything to show for it. I don't have like a t-shirt or that. So that was wasted time. Nobody really says that, right? If you spend some money to go out and do something, or I mean, even better, if you're with friends, hopefully you don't need to spend money. But, you know, spending some time with some friends is something that's useful in and of itself. And like, this is why we, you know, I don't really need to explain to people why, like, having experiences is worth it. But there you go. I did it anyway. But yeah, like the portfolio, like learning the craft is a good thing too. It's a shame. I think the thing that bugs me is less what people do with the time, because I know like Raspberry Pi had its origins. I think it was like Cambridge's computer science department. They were noticing that there were like a lot of people entering in computer science where like there was really no reason why this was the case. Like the ability to learn different programming languages, you know, there's multiple ways you can do that. But ultimately they were having people entering into the university with absolutely no foundation in any of these topics at all. And so one of the things that they started doing for a cohort that they were considering admissions for was they gave them all a Raspberry Pi and just saw what they did with it. And essentially the people who took the time and did some independent projects were the ones who were admitted. I don't know if they still do that, but I think that's actually not a bad way of doing it. Because again, you're allowing people to sort of follow their interests and see what they do with when given their own devices, rather than just have somebody like really, you know, white knuckle their way through, I guess it's A levels in the UK, but yeah, like taking the time to actually make something. I guess that's kind of the equivalent to the portfolio piece. But then again, it's Cambridge, right? So you probably already have a bit of an advantage if you're being considered by their comp sci department. Dendron says, my gap year was working in a shop to be able to afford your first year of college. Yeah, I got quite lucky actually. I did quite well in my first year. So I had a few more scholarships than I was expecting. And then I did eventually have to leave the job that I was working during university. But pretty much the same month that happened, I got invited to TA some courses, so that kind of helped me figure out what I was doing with the bills. Good to see you, by the way, Dendron. I should have said, by the way, I was wrapping up. I just wanted a chance to be able to catch up with everybody before we finished off. So I did notice that somebody was streaming Phantom Brigade today, so I wanted to take a second to say thank you, everybody. I know this is a little bit of an unusual Phantom Brigade stream because we started off with Roblox. But hopefully you liked climbing the giant man. If you didn't, I'm sorry. I don't need to keep doing Roblox, but I'm learning a little bit. But yeah, I'm very happy to be back in Phantom Brigade. I definitely intend to play this more. I don't know if I'll consistently do it like every Wednesday, because I also want to make sure I'm doing some good time with Godless. In fact, the developer of Godless sent me a really nice message on Twitter, and they wound up seeing the stream, so they actually have put in a couple of fixes based on some of the stuff that we ran into last week, which was so nice of them. Like, they absolutely do not need... Like, don't get me wrong, I'm over the moon when I get a chance to talk to developers, because they're all interesting people, right? But, you know, they got stuff to do, right? I stream for like 3 hours, and I don't usually have anything interesting to say, so they, you know, they've got... they definitely have better things to do, but it's always really nice to hear from them, so... that was very much appreciated. So yeah, I want to make sure that I'm coming up with the right balance of things. But if you ever have any preferences, be sure to let me know. I know there was the reason why I'm doing more Phantom Brigade. In fact, is oh, that's a shame. So it's not just that Phantom Brigade's down. The other person I was going to host has gone offline. So, oh well. Let me see who else is. Okay. I think I have an idea of who will host. But yeah, just because some people did actually express a preference for Phantom Brigade, it is one of the reasons why I streamed that tonight. So I do listen. Doesn't mean I always follow the requests or the recommendations immediately. But I do take it into account, and I appreciate it when everybody lets me know what they like, because it helps me schedule. But yeah, anyways, I'm going to host Brian on the Rocks tonight. He is a huge fan of fighting games, so he is currently playing Street Fighter 6. He is a developer at Respawn, so he used to be on... Apex Legends. He is now working on the as yet untitled... Well, I'm sure it's titled, but we don't know the title. But the untitled, unknown Star Wars FPS that they are working on. But anyways, he is a friendly guy. I actually met him in Vancouver when he was running a gamer bar called EXP, which sadly closed, but I am happy to say that he's back on his feet and back in the games industry. So, a very high energy stream, which I will say for better or worse. But I hope you all have a good evening. I will be back on Friday. And I gotta be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure what I'm playing on Friday yet, because I've gotten so used to doing Book of Hours. Once upon a time, I was playing Cyberpunk and all of that. But in any case, we'll figure it all out. I'm going to try and make sure that I get some proper sleep and otherwise get started at closer to 7 moving forward. And I also have a bit of work that I need to catch up on today, but that will all happen off stream. So have a lovely evening. Thank you very much for the kind words and the comments and the interaction. Have a great time in Brian's, and we will see you all in the future. Bye.